Okay. Hello, how is everyone doing? Frank time. The thing is buffering. Yes, it was a few moments ago. Shit, man. Why doesn't it this want to? Yeah. Still, for some reason, keeps disconnecting. Well, I have the book here. I have. Let me first give a brief explanation of what we're going to do. I'm going to be reading a book called "Murders in the Honjin." It's a book by basically a guy that created that was inspired by the golden age of detective novels. You know, Hero, Agatha Christie, but in Japan. Honkaku in itself it means orthodox. It's a word that means orthodox, and there's a lot of people trying to see what it means and discussing what it could be and whatever. Things that I'm not going to discuss right now, but basically it tries to tell you this is a whodunit. This is how a whodunit is done, and if the whodunit is not done this way, it's not. And thus, it's extremely autistic, and Japanese people are extremely like that. Oh man, oh, bom bom bom. Frank Boyce, I'm normally talking. What do you mean? I sound weird. Anyways, uh, the book is called The Honjin Murders. I got it wrong because I have like the book in here and it's in Spanish and I translated it wrong in English. Um, Basically one of the most well-known novels by this guy, and I'm going and books, row. But basically that the book is actually really well made. It was translated like super recently, but it's a 1956 book. Like 10 years ago, it was translated for the first time, like officially. There are some translations here and there, but nothing like you know. Anyways, the book starts with like on the side, different from normal books, like of this century, with with a diagram of all the characters that are going to be involved. It starts with the Ichiyanagi family. There's first over here. I will just start writing it. Itoko. Obviously, this is Japanese. Blah blah blah. Mother. Kenso. The the eldest son. So I will just put it like over here. Taeko. Just, and I believe I'm going to be. It's going to be a lot of plays, so I'm not going to continue. Unless I think I will have to put them in the mystery board. The mystery board is it's a really cramped as it is, so go away. For now, we know absolutely nothing about the story, so let's figure out what it is. The this has several pages of of who is who, different from normal books. It has the Chiyanagi family, then the Kubo family, then the servants, because it's 1986, so they have like the work. The police officers, there's three. The inspector is Okawa, Detective Sergeant Kimura and Chief Inspector. And then the main character of the story, which is Kosuke Kindaichi. And for some reason, there's also various police officers, farm workers, and other minor characters that don't matter. Let me put some music. Um, Give me. Mm, Obvious. To wave us into what's going to. Chapter 1. It doesn't have a name. It has a name. The Three-Fingered Man. Let's start. Before recording the strange history that follows, I felt I ought to take a look at the house where such gruesome murder was committed. Accordingly, one afternoon in early spring, I set off, walking stick in hand, for a stroll around that infamous residence. I was evacuated to this rural farming village in Okayama Prefecture in May of last year, at the height of the bombing raids. Oh man. And since that day, everyone I have met has talked to me at least once of what some call the Koto murder case, and others the Honjin murder case, at the home of the Ichiyanagi family. Generally, as soon as people hear that I am a writer of detective stories, they feel compelled to tell me of any murder case with which they have the slightest personal connection. I suppose rumors of my profession had reached the ears of the villagers, so every single one managed to bring up the topic of the Honjin murder cases at some point. For the people of this village, there could hardly be a more memorable case, and yet, most of them were not aware of the full horror of this case. Usually, when people tell me these kinds of tales, they never turn out to be as interesting to me as they are to the teller, much less potentially material for a book. But this case was different. From the moment I heard the first whispers of the case, I was fascinated. Then when I finally got to hear the account from the lips of F, and it's like stricken out, the man most directly connected to the case, I was at once seized with a great excitement. It was no ordinary murder. The perpetrator had scrupulously planned the whole ghastly deed. What's more, it was worthy of the label Locked Room Murder Mystery. With the Locked Room Murder Mystery, a genre that any self-respecting detective novelist will attempt at some point in his career or her career, the murder takes place in a room with no apparent way for the killer to enter or exit. Constructing a solution is an appealing challenge to the author. As my esteemed friend Eiso Inoue wrote, all of the works of the great John Dickson Carr are of some variation on the locked room murder theme. As I'm the writer of the detective novels myself, I intended one day to try my hand at one of these, and now I have been unexpectedly blessed. One has fallen right into my lap. I know it's shocking, but I feel I owe a debt of gratitude to the killer for devising such a fiendish method of stabbing this man and woman. Yeah, when I first heard the story, I immediately racked my brain to think of any similar cases among all the novels I have read. The first that came to mind were Gaston Leroux, The Mystery of the Yellow Room, and Maurice Leblanc, The Teeth of the Tiger. Then there's the Canary of Murder Case and the Kennel Murder Case, both by S.S. Van Dien, and finally Dixon's Curse, The Plague Court Murders. Maybe it is. I even considered variation on the locker room murder theme of Roger Scarlett's Murder Among the Angels. But this real-life case wasn't quite like any of the above mentioned. Maybe, just maybe, the clerk had read a selection of stories like this, dissecting all of the different devices, using and picked out of the element that he needed, constructed his own device. At least that's one theory, but of all those books, it's the Mystery of the Yellow Room that bears the closest resemblance, at least as regards setting and atmosphere. Less so, the facts of the case. In that story, the crime scene was a room with yellow wallpaper. In the Honjin Murders case, the columns and beams, ceiling and rain shutters were all painted red ochre. Red ochre wasn't an unusual hue for houses in this region. In fact, the house I was living in had also been painted that color. The difference was that my house was extremely old, and the red luster had faded to a dark brownish sheen. On the other hand, the room where the murder took place has just been repainted, and just must have been gleaming with its fresh coat of red. The tatami mat flooring and the fusuma sliding doors that divided the two main rooms were brand new too. There was a biobo folding screen decorating the gold leaf. The only unpleasant sight must have been the couple lying there, soaked in crimson of their own blood. Yeah. To me, the most captivating element of this case was the way in which the traditional Japanese string instrument known as the koto was connected from the beginning to the end. At all the critical moments, its eerie music could be heard. I have never quite escaped the influences of romanticism, still find that incredibly alluring. A locked room murder, a red ochre painting, and the sound of the koto. All of these elements are so perfect, too perfect, like drugs that work a little too well. If I don't hurry to get it all down in writing, I feel their effects may start to wear off. Now I seem to have got a little bit ahead of myself. From my house to the grounds of the Ichinayagi residence takes roughly 15 minutes on foot. It's in the small hamlet of Yamanoya, not outside of the larger village of O, like it's scratched off. A hill lies to the north of the Yamanoya, made up of 3 gentle ridges, reminding me somehow of the 3 legs of a starfish. At the very tip of one of these legs sits the grand residence of the Ichiyanagi family. A small stream runs along the west side of the Starfish Hill, and one of the east there is a narrow road coming from the village of H. Shortly after the stream and the roads around the foot in the hill, the two meet. The Ichiyanagi home occupies the roughly triangular acre of half land in between. In other words, the property is enclosed by the hill to the north, the stream to the west, and the H village, road to the east. The main entrance faces the road on the east side. I began by walking by the side with this grand black gate embellished with the stats. An imposing wall stretched to both left and right, running for, next page, a total about of 350 feet. I looked in through the gate. I saw that there was another inner fence, indicated that the property was impressive, as rumor had suggested. However, I couldn't see beyond the inner fence. I tried walking around the south end of the premises to the west side and then followed the stream in the northerly direction. At the very northern corner of the outer wall, I came across a broken down water wheel and a simple wooden bridge. I crossed the bridge and clambered to the steep side of the hill, ducking down to push my way through the thick bamboo that grew there. From up here on the hillside that formed the northern boundary of the Ichiyanagi property, I had almost a perfect bird eye over the grounds. Man, look at this man trying to enter the house of someone else like private property. The closest group to me was that of the annex house, the scene of that terrible murder. From what I heard in the village, this building had originally been constructed for the retired head of the Chianagi family, and was much smaller than the main house, comprising only of 2 rooms. One 8, and the other 6 tatami mats in size. Oh, and it, like, I like that they use tatami mats in like how to, in sizes. Like feet, I guess. One 8 and the other one 6 tatami mats in size. Yet typical of this type of structure, although the building itself was small, the garden was extensive, stretching both to the south and to the west side, and crammed with tree, bushes and ornaments rocks. I read about this annex house in more detail later. Although I found it interesting, he is telling me that he can see the annex house like from outside, but he can't enter it. Looking beyond the annex further to the south, I could see the main building, the magnificent single-story Ichiyanagi home, which faced in an easterly direction, and beyond that, the quarters occupied by the branch family. Next to this were the storehouse and several other small buildings dotted about, seemingly at random. The main house and the annex had been divided by a high fence, and were connected by a means of a simple garden gate, made of twigs and branches. Right now, fence and gate were damaged, almost beyond recognition, but at the time of the murder they were still in good shape, solid enough to slow down the people who came running at the sound of the screams. This completed my survey of the Chichianagi resident. I took a little while to scramble my way out of the bamboo thicket. Next I headed back to the old local government office, right in the far south end of the village. There were a few houses around that area, and first saw again nothing but rice fields until the next small town, Cave. Running through those rice fields was a fairly major 2-lane road. If you walked for about 40 minutes total, you would come to the N train station. In other words, if you were traveling by train, there was no other ways to enter Old Village than by this road. You were faced to pass in front of the government building on your way in, right across the street from it is way a tavern with an earthen floor and a simple window in the front. It was a place where wagon drivers and other tradesmen would stop by for a quick drink and something to eat. But more significantly, the character who would go on to play a central role in what I'm calling the Honjin Murder case made his first appearance at this very tavern. This was the first sighting of the Three-Fingered Man. The incident took place around the sunset of the 23rd November 1937, or the 12th year of the reign of the Showa Emperor. In other words, 2 days before the murder. The Okami-san, proprietress of this tavern, was sitting on one of the wooden stools out front gossiping with a couple of her regulars. A wagon driver and official from the government office as the... wait, I am... what do you mean, Necro? As I was saying, a wagon driver and an official from the government office as the figure of a man came hobbling down the road. Oh, you want to... No, it's not, because I am just reading it. Would you prefer it like that? It's not supposed to be on the story. It's supposed to be me reading it. I don't like. I'm threading like a thin line in the copyright industry right now. It's just that reading isn't copyright, but I would say that showing it would be breaking some. Oh shit. Where was I? Accidentally pressed the button there. I guess it's been a while since I used Yukari Net, but I could set it up like next time. because there's like no other way for me to like show text at the same time, like while streaming. At least not with my current. Exactly, transformative works. That's exactly what I mean. I researched copyright if I could like read it or if not, and the Japanese are like copyright if you are like very specific about copyright and shit like that. So I guess that the only way to do this is by reading it myself without a lot of like other things showing. The mystery board over here is a way for you if you want me to put something in there, or if I see something after reading a chapter. Anyways, the Okami-san proprietress of this tavern was sitting on one of the wooden stools out front gossiping with a couple of her regulars. A wagon driver and an official from the government office, as the figure of a man came hobbling down the road from the direction of Cape Town. When he reached the tavern, the man came to an abrupt halt. Could you tell me the way to the Ichiyanagi residence? The Kami-san, the village official, and the wagon driver stopped talking to look at the man over. This wasn't the kind of person who would expect a visit at the Ichiyanagi family. He wore a crumpled felt hat, pulled low over his eyes, and a large mask covered his nose without mouth. A matted hair poked out from under his hat. There was stubble covering his face from cheek to jowl. All in all, he was a shady-looking character, yes. He wasn't wearing a coat. The collar of his jacket was turned up against the cold, but the jacket and his trousers were smeared with grime and dust, and worn away to fine at the elbows and knees. His shoes were caked in grey dust, and both soles were hanging off. Everything about the man looked run down. It was hard to tell, but he was perhaps about 30 years old. Literally me. Oh, the Ichiyanagi resident. It's that way. But what business do you have with the Ichiyanagi family? The village officer glared at the man, who blinked repeatedly while mumbling something unintelligible behind his mask. Just at that moment, on the same road, from the very same direction that the man had come, a rickshaw appeared. What's a rickshaw? Rickshaw. Oh, a rickshaw is like that thing where they pull like they're being pulled. It's basically like a reverse. Yeah, I know what a rickshaw is. The Okami-san glanced at it and turned back to the visitor. Hey you! Look! There's the very man you want to see, the master of the Ichiyanagi house. The passenger in the rickshaw was a man of 40 or so with dark complexion and a severe expression on his face. He wore dark western-style clothing and sat stiffly uptight in the seat. He never once glared on the side or took in his surroundings, but kept his eyes fixed on the road ahead. With his sharp cheekbones and prominent nose, there was something austere and unapproachable about him. This was Kenzo, the current master of the house of Ichiyanagi. The rickshaw passed by a front of the group of onlookers and quickly disappeared around a bend in the road. The wagon driver waited until it was completely out of sight before turning to the Okami-san. Rumor has it, the master of the house has found himself a bride. Is that right? Looks like it. The wedding the day after tomorrow. Heh? Already? That's what I call quick. The Ichiyanagi resident is that way. But what business do you have with the Ichiyanagi family? Wait, no, I'm reading again. Blah 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 blah. Well, if you waste any more time, then someone might come up with a new objection to the marriage. Now that it's been decided in a rush to get it done, it's what force of nature. The one he puts in mind to something. Well, suppose that I will be how he got to be such a big shot scholar, said the village officer. Mind you, did well to get to the constant of the old matriarch. Well, of course she doesn't approve, but I heard she had to give in eventually. The more she opposed it, the more stubborn the young master became. How old is he now? About 40? Asked the wagon driver. 40 on the nose, replied the officer. And this is his first marriage. Well, 40 in 1936, man, he's marrying old. The bride's only 25, or 6 too. Oh, it's a really gap marriage. Said the Kami-san. Rin-san's daughter I heard. Found herself a big fish. Not that what I call marrying up. The official tune turned back to the Kami-san. Is she a stunner? Then the bride. They say she's not all that good looking, but she's a teacher at some girls' school, so she's a clever and capable. I guess that makes her a good match to her master. The Kami-san recited. Looks like all the young girls will need an education from now on. Oh, Kami-san, don't tell me you're planning to go to school to land yourself a rich husband. Oh, you can bet I am. The three of them burst out laughing. It was at that moment that the strange visual opened the mouth again. Oh, Kami-san, he said hesitantly. Would I possibly have a drink of water? My throat is so dry. Startled, the three friends turned. Truth be told, they completely forgotten that he was there. The Kami-san scowled at him for a few moments, but eventually filled the glass with water and handed it to him. The man thanked her, and shifted his mug so as to be able to drink. The three villagers exchanged a look. There was a long gash on the man's right cheek, that appeared to have been stitched after an injury. It was a deep scar, ran from the right corner of his sleeve up his cheek, as if the side of his face had been slashed open. The reason the man was wearing a mask wasn't to protect him from the dust of disease, it was to hide the scar. And there was one more gruesome detail that caught their eye. As he reached for the glass, they saw that it only had 3 fingers on his right hand. The ring finger and the little finger were both cut in half. Only a thumb and the first 2 fingers were whole. The 3-fingered man finished his water, thanked the Kami-san and hobbled off in the same direction the rickshaw had gone. The 3 locals were left staring after him. What the hell? What does he want with the Chianaki? Ugh. He gave me the creeps. Did you see the mouth? I'm never using that glass again. The Kami-san placed the used glass on the very far end of the shelf, a decision which would prove to be helpful in the following days. Incidentally, if you're the kind of reader who enjoys reading between the lines of the story and recall the particulars of the crime, you may already be able to guess what I'm about to write next, namely, that you only need 3 fingers to play the koto. Its strings are traditionally plucked by thumb, index, and middle finger. Let's put that down, because I guess that's important, you know? Because I guess the koto is important to know. Koto. Strings instrument. You need only 3 fingers to play. I mean, other instruments you need like all the fingers. 3-fingered man. Let me see if the start of the book they tell me who the 3-fingered man is. The Nagi, currently unemployed, considered a bit slow. The younger daughter considered a bit slow, Suko. Ryosuke, cousin of Kenzo and his sibling, managed his family finances. Akiko, Ryosuke's wife. Ihei, great uncle of Kenzo and Ryosuke, young brother and his Hayato. Sasuke, this is the husband of Toko and father of 5. Hayato, this is the brother of Sasuke, Sakyue and father of Ryosuke. Okay. Toko is the family matriarch. I don't know who the 3-fingered man could be so far. It could be part of the Kubo family. Katsuo, bride and school teacher of Akaya. Oh, Katsuko must be like the marriage, the one marrying. Ginso, the uncle of the bride, simple fruit farmer. Rinkichi, father of Katsuko and brother of Ginso. Shizuko, friend of Katsuko. And then is Shiraki's. I don't know who Shiraki is. Doesn't say. Or Shizuko Shiraki. Oh no, the friend of Katsuko is Shizuko Shiraki. Okay. Then there's a bunch of servants. I don't know who the three-finger man is. Yet. Anyways, we're about to enter chapter 2. I guess that's the most important details I can get from chapter 1. There's a three-finger man, and there's a glass in the Okaya. I guess I should move the things a bit to the right. There we go. A bit over here. There we go. They write glass. Oh shit. Glass at the Amisen. Because I guess that's going to be important in the future. Okay, let's start with chapter 2. Before starting, what did you think so far? I'm liking it. I'm liking the story. Oh, it's... Prim hasn't notified that I started. Oh, yeah, I should make a... No, I should... Okay. It's comfy. I guess so. Okay, let's go. Next chapter. The descendants of the Honjin. According to the village elders, the wealthy Ichiyanagi family wasn't originated from O village at all, but from the neighbor town of K. This automatically made them unpopular among the narrow-minded villagers. K used to lie on the old Chugoku Kaido, a section of the main route linking East and West Japan. In the Edo period, it was a rest station for travelers, and the Ichiyanagi home was a honjin, or an inn, where Edo period nobility would stay. However, when the shogun was overthrown and the imperial system was reinstated in the late 1860s, the family had realized that he was about to lose the honshin. He had the foresight to act before the old feudal system collapsed completely and moved his family to their current location. He was able to take advantage of the turmoil of the time and acquired a farmland dirt ship, instantly becoming a rich landowner. That was why the local folk liked to call the Ichiyanagi family a bunch of upstart kappa, a mystical water goblins. This word was a local term of abuse for people who moved from K-Town to Old Village. Anyway, at the time of the gruesome murders, the occupants of the Ichiyanagi family compounds were as follows. First and foremost, there was the widow of the previous head of the family, a mistress of the house, Itoko. Let me try to make the family tree over here to make it like understandable. Let's choose a smaller size. Itoko, mother. She was at the time 57 years old. She always wore her hair in a meticulously curled chignon, and never once let her mask of dignity drop. Itoko was immensely proud of being a descendant of a Honjin family. When the village spoke of the old matriarch, it was whom they referred. Well, not mother. Let's change that then. Matriarch. Ichiga. What was the name? Ichi what? Ichiyanagi. Ichiyanagi family. let's put it here. Okay. The dowager Itoko had 5 children, but only 3 of them were living with her at the time. The oldest of 3 was her son Kenzo, a graduate and philosopher at a certain private university in Kyoto. He thought for a few years at his alma mater after graduation, but had fallen prey to a respiratory disorder, returned home shutting himself away from the world. Oh, I guess that's a reason to be virgin at 40, at the 1960s. Kenzo. Son and bride? No, what's the other term? The contrary of a bride? Or it's a bride? Male bride? Male bride. How do you call a male bride? Bridegroom. There we go. Bridegroom. Bridegroom? I will put like question mark over there. We'll put him over here. Blah 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 blah. Nevertheless, he was a great scholar, and being confined to the house didn't prevent him from dedicating himself to his studies. He wrote books from time to time, contributed articles to journals, and had become a well-known academic. Apparently, it wasn't his poor health that had prevented him from marrying. He was just too busy with his studies to think about such matters. After Kenzo came to Itoko's eldest daughter, Taeko, he had married a businessman. Itoko was the mother, right? Yes. Came to Itoko's eldest daughter, Taeko. He had married a businessman and was living in Shanghai at the time. So had no direct connection to the events of that night. Okay, so what's her name? Taeko. Taeko? No, but wasn't there. Okay, so had no direct connections. Toko's second son Ryuji was a 35 and a doctor. Ryuji, okay. Ryuji. Son and doctor. So we have a doctor in the premises. He's going to tell us everything. Excellent. Employed by a major hospital in Osaka, he had not been at the family home at night either. Son of... They're not there. He had not been in the family home either. He was rushed home right after hearing the tragedy and so had some involvement in the immediate aftermath. For many years after giving birth to Ryuji, Toko and her husband hadn't had any more children. Everyone thought that there wouldn't be further addition to the family, but after a gap of almost 10 years, he had another son, and then a full 8 years later after that a daughter. The boy was called Saburo, and the girl Susuko. At the time of the murder, Saburo was 25 and Susuko 17. Saburo was definitely the black sheep of the family. Okay, Saburo. Okay, well, what was Saburo? He had been expelled from middle school and sent instead to a private vocational school in Kobe. He was expelled from that school too, and at the time of the murder he had no occupation of any kind. He used to hang around the house all day. The consensus was that he was intelligent enough, but never applied himself on any kind of work. There was also a certain slyness to his nature. Down in the village he was pretty much universally despised. Okay? Saburo, black sheep. There we go. Black sheep. And finally, Susuko. For their youngest child, Susuko, well, I can't help feeling sorry for her. Perhaps it was because her parents were quite tall when they had her that she was rather delicate like a flower that had to bloom in the shade. In addition to her poor physical health, she was a bit slow. She wasn't exactly mentally disabled. In some ways she was very gifted. In fact, when it came to playing the koto, One will go so far as to call her a musical genius. Oh. Tsuko. Savant photo player. Oh shit, it moved everything. A bit to the right, a bit more to the right. No, that's too much. I think that's good enough. Fuck. No. Shit. There we go. I'm having trouble. Let's put it here. Here, and let's put this over here. Let's like this over here and make it smaller. It isn't. I guess it's not that important. Well, let's put her next to her for now. Okay. So, from time to time, she would show flashes of incredible insight, but in most everyday matters, she behaved like a child of 7 or 8. There were the members of the main Ichiyanagi family, but there was another branch of the family living on the same property. The head of this branch was Ryosuke, a cousin of Kenso, and his siblings. He was a 38-year-old at the time, and he lived there with his wife, Akiko, and 3 young children. Obviously, these children had nothing to do with the murder case, and so I will leave them off the list. Ryosuke was completely different in temperament to his cousin Kenso. Ryosuke, let's put Ryosuke, it's an... Okay. Branch. Family. Oof. Oof. That was close. I'm sorry about that. Is it back online, please? Please, someone? Oh shit. There we go. Hello? Hello? No, okay. Let's move it to the right. Oh, that's the whole thing to the right. Okay, let's move everything over here. Okay, let's continue then. Hello, Necro dear. I see you. Stop. Hello. Okay. Ryosuke was completely different temperament from his cousin Kenso, and the others. He only finished primary school, but being good at mathematics and a worldly type, he was a perfect person to manage the Ichiyanagi family affairs. As far as Hitoko was concerned, more than her eccentric oldest son, the absent second son, and the undergraduate third son, Ryosuke proved to be the closest to a confidant that she had in her life. As for her wife, as his wife Akiko, there was nothing particularly distinctive about her. She was just an ordinary woman, obedient to her husband. And so there were the 6 inhabitants of the Ichiyanagi household. Hitoko, the family matriarch, Kenso, Saburo, Sasuke, Ryosuke, and Akiko. So those are the 6 people that are like are involved in the murder. So let's go. Let's the 6 suspects. Okay, Saburo, Kenso, Taeko. Taeko wasn't here, so go back. Tsuko, Ryosuke and Akiko, and Itoko. Those are everyone involved. Then, well, Kenzo is dead, so I guess I should like. I think he's dead. I think he's the person that died, and it doesn't matter. Then it was if a large pebble had been dropped into a little pond. The ripples spread wider than further, building into waves of thunder. The woman Kenzo wanted to marry was Katsuko Kubo. The woman, a teacher at the girls' school in Okayama City, and the Ichiyanagi family was united in their opposition to this marriage. Not because they had any personal problem with Katsuko personally, but because they objected to her lineage. Gentle reader, the word lineage, which has all but fallen out of usage in the city, is even today alive and well in the rural village like this one. You might even say it rules every aspect of people's lives. We are now in a period of upheaval following the Second World War, and farmers and peasants are increasingly no longer obliged to kowtow the upper classes, or to show the same level of respect for those with high social standing, fortune, or property. Those values have come crashing down in the wake of Japan's defeat. However, what's still intact is lineage. The reverence, respect, and pride associated with being born into a family with distinguished ancestry are still alive and well in rural communities. And lineage has nothing whatsoever to do with genetics or eugenics. For example, if the family of an established community leader, such as someone who'd been a village headman in the days of the shogunate, started producing male children who suffered from physical disabilities or epilepsy or lunacy, each will still be permitted to serve as headman when his time comes because his family line was good. This is still true now, and even more so in 1937, when this story takes place. As far as this Ichiyanagi family was concerned, there was nothing in the world more important than being the descendants of the owners of Honjin. It was everything to them. Katsuko Kubo's father had once been a tenant farmer in O village, but he'd been rather more ambitious than the average peasant. He had left the village along with his young brother and set sail to America. There the brother had found work on fruit farms until they had saved enough money to return to Japan and establish their own orchard about 25 miles from their home village. Both brothers married, but the elder died shortly after his wife had given birth to their daughter, Katsuko. Upon the death of her husband, the young widow had returned to her home village and leaving Katsuko to be raised by her uncle. She turned out to be a very studious child, and her uncle spared no expense in paying her school tuition. After graduation from a teacher's training school in Tokyo, she took a job in the girls' school in Okayama, not too far from her home. The fruit farm, established by Katsuko's father and uncle, was acutely successful. Katsuko's uncle was scrupulously honest when it came to putting his niche shares aside for her, that she worked as school teacher not because it was necessary to make a living, but because it was what she wanted to do. She was a woman in possession of both her own fortune and a career. Despite this, in the eyes of the Ichiyanagi family, it didn't matter how educated she was, how wise or intelligent, or how large her fortune she possessed. The daughter of a tenant farmer will always be just that, the daughter of a tenant farmer. She had no family name, no pedigree, and they thought of her as no more than the child of Rikichi Kubo, a poor peasant farmer. Kenzo had met Katsuko when he had been invited to speak at a student group in Kurashiki City there. Katsuko was a member of the group. After the initial meeting, Katsuko used to visit Kenzo to ask him for help with the foreign language book she liked to read. Their relationship continued for about a year, until suddenly one day Kenzo proposed a marriage. I have already mentioned how the Ichiyanagi family opposed the marriage, led by Itoko and Kenzo's cousin Ryosuke. Out of Kenzo's own sibling, it was his sister Taeko who felt the most strongly about the engagement. She even wrote a vehement letter to her older brother on the subject. On the other hand, the middle brother Yuji supported Kenzo and privately sent a letter to Itoko saying that she should let her oldest son to do as he liked. However, He never said a word about this directly to his older brother. And what was Kenzo's reaction to all this criticism? His approach was to stay completely silent. He made no move whatsoever to respond to any of it. And of course, water wins over fire. One by one, the opponents ran out of heat. Their voices faded, and their steps faltered, and finally, with a wry smile and a shoulder shrug, they were forced to admit defeat. The wedding ceremony was held on 25th of 1937, and that very night, the heinous crime was committed. I guess fire wins against water in the end, am I right? However, before I can go to the gory details of the murder, I must mention a few apparently trivial incidents that seem to have been some kind of prelude to what finally transpired. This all took place on the day before the wedding. In other words, on the 24th of November on the afternoon. The scene was the Ichiranagi family sitting room, where Itoko and Kensu were taking tea, and having what was clearly an uncomfortable conversation. The youngest, Suzuko, was sitting nearby, happily playing with a doll. It was typical of Suzuko. Wherever she went, she was absorbed in her own world, and never got in anyone's way. But that has been the tradition in this house for generations. Itoko had already lost her son over his choice of marriage partner, and was apparently still unable to hide her displeasure. But mother, we didn't do that when Ryuji got married. Kenzo didn't even deign to glance at the sweet manju bun offered to him by his mother. Instead, with a sour face, he continued to smoke his cigarette. That because he's the second son, you, Ryuji, aren't the same at all. You are the heir of the family, and Katsuko-san will be the wife of the heir. But I didn't think Katsuko can't even play the koto. He can probably play the piano. Wedding ceremony was held on the 25th of 1937, and that very night, that was the topic of the quarrel. Several generations, the bride of the heir to the family title, had been expected to play certain pieces on a koto at the official wedding ceremony. So you see, mother, there's no point in bringing this up now, Kenzo went on. If you told me about this earlier, I could have prepared Katsuko. My intention isn't to put any kind of damper on the wedding ceremony. I don't want you to think that I'm trying to embarrass Katsuko in any way. However, family tradition is what it is. Just as the tension in the room was beginning to mount, Satsuko came to her rescue. Mommy, can't I play the kato? Itsuko was taken by surprise, but Kenzo gave a wry smile. What a lovely idea, thank you, Satsuko. Mother, certainly no one could object to Suzuko's playing. Itoko seemed about to concede, but right at that moment her nephew Ryosuke appeared in the sitting room addressing his young cousin. Suzu-chan, this isn't where you've been hiding. I've been looking for you everywhere. See, I finished making the box for you. He was holding a beautiful fashion wooden box at the size that usually held mikan, mandarin oranges. Itoko frowned. Ryo-san, what's that? It's a tama coffin. Suzu-chan was upset. It's a tama coffin. Suzu-chan was upset when someone said she could bury him in a mikan box. She said, "Poor Tama being stuck on an old box like that. She refused to use it, so I managed to make this one instead." Yes, poor Tama, Suzu echoed. Thank you, Ryosuke. Tama was the name of Suzuko's pet's kitchen, but for the past few days, it had suffered from vomiting and diarrhea, and had finally died that morning. Itoko grimaced slightly at the sight of the wooden coffin. Ryo-san, he said quickly, as if to change the subject. What do you think about Suzuko being the one playing the koto? Sounds alright to me, Aunt Itoko, said Ryosuke lightly, helping himself to a manjuban. Kenzo had his back turned to his cousin and continued to puff on his cigarette. At which point Saburo came in. Hey, Suzu-chan, what a pretty box you got there. Who made that for you? You're mean, Sabu-chan. You lied to me. You promised to make one for me, but you didn't. Anyway, cousin Ryosuke made this for me, so I need yours anymore. Really, Suzu-chan? I can't believe you still trust me. Saburo, you go to get a haircut? Said Itoko, glancing to her son's head. Yes, just now. By the way, mother, I just heard something very strange at the barber's. Itoko didn't respond, so Saburo turned instead to his elder brother. Kenzo, yesterday evening you went by the old government office in a rickshaw, right? Did you happen to notice a weird-looking character hanging around outside the tavern? Kenzo looked puzzled. What do you mean by weird character, Sabu-chan? Ryosuke asked, his mouth stuffed full of manju. Well, it's really creepy. They say he had a huge scar from his mouth to his cheek, like this. And then he had like 3 fingers on his right hand, just like his thumb and the next 2 fingers. Anyway, since this man was asking the Okami-san about our house. Hey Suzuko, you didn't notice any strange man hanging around yesterday evening, did you? Suzuko looked up at Saburo and began to mumble, thumbing his finger, as she had so. He moved each of them corresponding finger in the right hand as she was playing koto. Itoko and Saru watched her in silence. Yosuke was busy, peeling the paper off another manju. Kenzo kept smoking his cigarette. Well, that was chapter 2. Well, the chapters are kinda small. I have been reading for an hour and I shaved off 2 chapters. Although there's like, let me see. There's 18 chapters. So what do you guys are thinking about it so far? They are giving too much like emphasis on the koto and how it's getting played with 3 fingers, so it's going to be important at some point, especially with Suzuko. Anyways, chapter 3. Before starting chapter 3, I'm going to go and grab something to eat. Man, my mouth isn't opening at all. Why the fuck is it opening? Give me a second. No. Mouth open. I see. There we go. Now it opens every time I talk. Excellent. Although it's kinda wobbly now. Let me go get something to eat before starting. Give me a second. I'm back. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I was hungry as fuck. Anyways, let's continue with this with the story. I should really think about getting a transition, a transitional sting. Now I'm full. What food did you get? I made me a sandwich out of some meat I found. I was fighting with bones. Okay. As I said before, a Honjin was kind of an inn in feudal Japan where the daimyo, lords, and other important officials would stay on their way to or from paying attendance to the shogun in the capital. Edo, the old name of Tokyo, ordinary members of the public were not permitted to stay at a Honjin. Yeah. A family who owned such high-placed lodging were also members of the elite, and so it followed that it was a place where the rules of high society were closely adhered to. There were differences between a Honjin and its in this region and the one on Tokaido. The ones on Tokaido. First of all, there were fewer daimyo traveling on the Kokaido, and accordingly there were variations in the scale of operation, but the Honjin was still a Honjin. In keeping with the honor associated with being descendants of Honjin family, the wedding celebration at the current head of the Ichiyanagi family were expected to be a flamboyant affair. The following report was made to me by F, who was kind enough to offer me an insight into the usual custom of the regions. These kinds of events are way more grandiose in the countryside than they are in the city. And with a family as important as the Ichiyanagis, and the groom being the heir of the family line, he will be dressed in a kamishimo, a formal dress for the samurai. The bride will wear a white kimono with an uchikake robe over it. Normally, there will be between 50 and 100 guests, but this particular wedding turned out to be an extremely private gathering on the bridegroom's side. Beside the immediate family members, there was only a great uncle from K-Town in attendance. Tenso's own brothers, Ryuichi, didn't even come back from Osaka. The only person to attend from the bride's side was her uncle, Tenso Kubo. Consequently, the ceremony itself was a rather forlorn affair. There was no questions or of skimping on the celebrations for the many tenants of the farms and farmhands who lived working on the Ichiyanagi land. It was tradition in this part of the newlyweds to drink all the nights with the locals. And so on the day of the wedding ceremony, on the day of the wedding, the 25th of November, the kitchen at the Ichiyanagi family was bustling, with extra hands drafting the help alongside the usual servants. Around 6:30 p.m., when preparations were at their busiest, a man suddenly appeared at the kitchen door. "Excuse me, is the master home? Would somebody mind passing this to him?" Old now, for lighting the fire under a pot to see a man wearing a crumpled felt hat pulled down lowered his eyes. The collar of his worn-out jacket turned up against the cold, and an oversized mask hiding most of his face. A very suspicious-looking character, she thought. "You want to see the master of the house?" Yes, I need to give this to him." In his left hand, the man was holding a scrap of paper, folded over several times. Later, when interviewed by the police, Now would describe his appearance this way. "It was weird. He had all his fingers curled around it. He was clutching the paper between his knuckles, for his forefinger and middle finger like a leper will. Yes, alright, he kept his right hand in his pocket. I thought there was something off about him, so I tried to get a good look at his face. He quickly turned his head away, Then he shoved the paper at me and ran away, right out the kitchen door. There were a lot of other people in the kitchen at the time, but nobody could have dreamed how significant the man visit would turn out to be, and so nobody paid any attention. After the man ran off, the servant stood there for a while preparing the ham. Not quite sure what to do until Ryosuke's family wife hurried to the kitchen. Does anyone know where my husband got to? I think he just went out. I wonder what's so urgent when we were this busy. Never mind if I see him. Please, tell him he needs to get changed as soon as possible. Now, called to Kiko to wait and handed her the piece of paper, explaining what had just happened. On Kruger especially looked like a page torn from the pocket diary. For Kenzo-san, I see. Akiko frowned slightly, but didn't slow her pace, tucking the paper into her obish sash in her kimono. She left the kitchen and peered into the sitting room. Itoko was in there, in conversation with her maid. Kyo, who was helping her with her formal kimono, Suzuko, already wearing her own kimono, sat by her mother's side, plucking at a beautiful gold lacquered kyoto. Auntie, where's Kenzo-san? I don't know. He's probably in his study. Just a moment. Akiko-san, would you help Kyo tie my obi? Right as Akiko and the maid had finished tying Itoko's obi sash, Saru came ambling in wearing a heavy winter kimono. Saburo, why are you still on those clothes? Where have you been? I was in the study, reading a novel of those detective books, I'll bet, Suzuko said as she turned the koto. Saburo was obsessed with mystery novels. What's wrong with reading novels? How about you, Suzuko? Have you held a funeral for the cat yet? Suzuko ignored him and kept playing. You haven't? Then you'd better hurry up. If you leave the dead cat lying around, it's going to turn into a howling ghost. Suzuko looked upset. You can be as mean as you like, Saburo-chan, but I already did Tama-chan funeral this morning. Stop it, Saburo. That's completely inappropriate, Itoko admonished him. Be careful what you say. By the way, was your brother in the study? No, isn't he in the annex? Akiko-san, if you found Kenzo, could you tell him to start getting ready as soon as possible? The bride will be arriving anytime soon. Akiko left the sitting room, and just as she started to slip in her Geta garden sandals to head over to the annex house, her husband, Ryosuke, came strolling casually out of the branch house, stealing his everyday clothes. What are you doing here? You need to start getting dressed, or you won't be ready in time. Don't be ridiculous. The bride won't be here until 8. There's no hurry, and anyway, where are you off to? To the annex looking for Kenzo-san. Kenzo was standing on the wooden Engawa veranda on the annex house, staring up the sky. Aki-san, he said as he saw her heading this way. It looks as if the weather's going to change. What is this for me? Ah, thanks. Kenzo took note from Akiko and moved inside to read under the electric light. Akiko followed and began to adjust the flower arranged in the Tokonama alcove. Aki-san, tell me who wrote this note? Noticing something out of the ordinary in Kenzo's tone, Akiko stopped and turned to look at him. Kenzo was standing over him with a look of animal fury on his face. No-san was the one who gave it to me. She said it was delivered by a kind of vagrant. Is there some problem or? Kenzo continued to glare at Akiko as she spoke, but then he seemed to remember himself and turned away. His eyes fell in note again. He grabbed it, ripped it into shreds, and then looked around for some place to dispose of the pieces. Finding nowhere appropriate, he stuffed them into the sleeve of his kimono. Kenzo-san, your mother asked me to tell you to prepare this for the ceremony. Yes, right. Aki-san, would you mind closing the shutters? We thought Kenzo left the annex house. The previous all happened around 7 in the evening. Okay, 7 in the evening. Okay, that's a good point. 7 in the evening. Kenzo went ape shit over a note. Excellent. As I previously mentioned, there were very few wedding guests. On the groom's side, the Thaugar, Itoko, brother and sister Saburo, and Suzuko, the branch family husband and wife, Ryusuke and Akiko, and one more, a 70-year-old great uncle from K-Town, by the name of Ihei. The sole guest on the bride side was her uncle, Inso Kubo. The official matchmaker was the mayor of the village, but this was a mere formality. He was just there for show. After the pledges were made and the second cup exchanged, the beautiful black and gold embellished koto was brought out, and Suzuko performed as has been arranged. Suzuko may have been a backward for her age in most regards, but when it came to koto, she was incredibly accomplished. The player and the instrument together filled the room with their beauty. However, a koto performance during a wedding ceremony was very unusual, and the piece that Suzuko played was one that Katsuko had never heard before, so the bride was rather confused. Itoko explained it to him later. Many years ago, the wife of the head of the Ichiyanagi house was a very talented koto player. It so happened that a noblewoman, the daughter of the daimyo, there we go, was passing through on her way west for a wedding ceremony and stopped at the Honjin. The expert koto player performed a song that she had written herself, called The Lovebirds. The daimyo daughter admired the song so much that the next day she sent the family a koto, which they nicknamed the Lovebird. Ever since, the Shinanagi family has acquired the bride of the hero of the play the koto at her wedding ceremony. The piece that Suzuko just played was the Lovebirds, and the instrument that she was using was the very same Lovebirds too. Hearing this, Katsuko's eye grew wide. So I should have been playing the koto just now? That's right, but as I had no idea whether you were aware of our situation or not, I hesitated to ask and requested Suzuko to play in your place. Katsuko refrained from responding. Instead, Insukubo answered for his niece. Katsuko had been asked beforehand, she would have gladly have played for you. Really? Big sister, do you play the koto too? Miss, this young lady is going to become a good companion to you, said Kinso, addressing Suzuko. Perhaps she will be more than just your big sister, she could be your koto teacher too. Itoko and Ryosuke exchanging glances. Seeing this, Kenzo spoke up. So then, this koto belongs to the Katsuko now. Itoko didn't respond right now, and there was an awkward silence in the room. It was the worldly wife mayor that came to the rescue. If the bride is talented at the koto, she really ought to have been invited to play today. He turned to Itoko. There's still the final part of the ceremony to take place in the annex building. What do you think, madame, about a second performance? That's true, said Itoko. Would you play for us, Katsuko-san? As we have already had Suzuko perform the Lovebirds, please choose any piece. Something joyful that you would like to play. It is after all, this family tradition to have tradition for the bride to play the koto on her wedding night. And that was how it came about that Katsuko played the koto later that evening. The wedding ceremony ended around 9:30 p.m. Okay. The wedding 9:30 wedding ceremony. Okay, I guess that's how it goes. Where was I? Okay, and that's when the drinking and merrymaking began for guests and the house and kitchen alike. Before they finally got to retire on their wedding night, all newlyweds have to go through something of an ordeal, but in the countryside especially thought. Kenzo and Katsuko were obliged to bring sake to their guests along the dead of the night. As they served the locals in the kitchen, they were treated to lewd songs. Back in the house, of course they weren't subject to anything so bad, but great uncle Ihei got blind drunk and started ranting incoherently. Literally me. This character was the young brother of Kenson Ryosuke's grandfather, but he had set up his own branch of the family when he was young, and they referred to him as the sub-branch uncle. Like most elderly men, he was known for being quarrelsome and fond of his drinking. On top of that, he had all kinds of objection to and complaints about the wedding, and the more he drank, the worse he got, spewing out his disgust directly to the bride and groom. Finally, they entreated him to stay over, as he was in no state to make it home safely, but he refused to listen. Eventually, after midnight, he announced he was leaving. Saburo, you better seek him home. Kenzo, who had done a good job of ignoring Ikei's abusive language, was kind of enough to be worried about the drunken old man getting home in the dark. And as it's so late, you might as well stay over at the uncle's place too. It wasn't until they opened the door for Ikei to leave that they all realized it was snowing, but rather heavily too. It was rare for snow to fall at all in those parts and to see it really piling up. It was natural that everyone was surprised when they recalled the events later. They realized the crucial role that snow had played in the terrible crime that was about to be committed. Finally, the newlyweds were able to return to the annex, and it was about 1 in the morning when they performed the last ritual exchange of sack cups. 1 in the morning. Okay. Well, I guess it's not 29th of November. 1 a.m. Cups. Let's change. They performed the ceremony, but the only family member present were Aunt Itoko, my husband, and myself. Saburo-chan had gone to take Uncle Ikei home, and Susu-chan had already gone to bed. During the ceremony, Katsuko played Chidori for us. Hey, Chidori means like Naruto. Yeah. When she finished, she leaned the koto vertical against the tokonoma alcove. I placed the box of pigs in the far corner of the alcove, but I don't remember clearly what the katana was on the shelf whether the katana was on the shelf at the time. It was almost 2 in the morning by the time the ceremony was finished. The family left the newlyweds alone in the annex and went back to the main house. The time was still snowing heavily. Then some 2 hours later, a blood-curdling scream rang out, followed by the earliest strains of a koto being plagued with wild and being abandoned. So, we have the timeline of events. So, 2 in the morning. Blood curling. How do you write curling? Curdling. Yeah. I should. I'm not writing murder because probably the murder happened before, but who knows? No, wait, 3 in the morning. It's 3 in the morning. Because 2 hours later after that. Okay. So that was chapter 3? Yes, that was chapter 3, and now we're at chapter 4. So what do you guys are thinking about? Are you liking it? I guess, it doesn't matter. Okay, let's continue then. Give me 1 second while I check something. I need... Oh no, no worry, no worry. No, no worries. Anyways, let's continue. A great tragedy. Hirose Kubo lay down in the spare room of the Ichiyanagi home where he was to spend the night. He suddenly felt very wary. It wasn't surprising, he had his own misgivings about the niece's marriage. He knew all too well the fellow manner and the sentiment of a rural village, what it might mean for a lower-born woman as Katsuko. If he was honest about it, he was concerned about how she managed to be treated. He managed concerned about how she might be treated. He wasn't convinced that joining the Ichiyanagi family, his former landlords, would bring Katsuko happiness, but Katsuko herself had been eager to marry Kenzo. Kenzo's wife had offered her own view. I'm sure if your brother had been alive, he would have been thrilled about it. Marrying to the Ichiyanagi is a huge mark of success. Kenzo had let himself be convinced. His older brother, Rinkichi, had far deeper admiration of the Japanese tradition and class structure than Kenzo ever did. It was true. Rinkichi had been alive, he would have been very proud of his daughter's match. In the end, despite his misgiving, Ginso had given his consent to the marriage. Once he had made his decision, he rushed at full speed ahead. So as not to embarrass Katsuko, he made sure that there was nothing the Ichiyanagi scrambled about behind her back. He threw himself into organizing the wedding with the greatest efficiency. He drew on everything he had learned during the stay in America and ordered wedding clothes from the finest tailors in Kyoto and Osaka. He spared no expense. Uncle Ginso, I can't believe you spent so much on me. Katsuko was taken aback at the lavish kimono he brought for her. She burst into tears, but in the end, all of Ginso's efforts would be in vain. That evening, Katsuko had set out from the house of the village mayor, who was invited to act as the go-between for the wedding. Decked out in the formal wedding kimono, her beauty left a great impression on everyone who saw her. The magnificence of the furniture and dishes and decorative items that had been sent as a dowry were the talk of the whole time. Ginso was pleased to see that even the haughty Ichiyanaga's were impressed. Rinkichi would have been gratified to see this, he said to himself that night after the wedding was over. He would have been truly delighted. And with that, he felt his heart swell and tear began to trickle down his cheek. The sound of body sounds drifted from the kitchen where the locals were staying drinking. He tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep and with all the racket, but eventually he drifted off. Sometime later he was woken up by a fitful and dream-filled sleep. His eyes snapped open. Had he just heard a scream? He sat up on his foot and it wasn't a dream. He heard the same sound again. Couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. Over and over it came one voice, two voices, and again, screams that were so terrifying that they seemed to tear through the stillness of the night. Then from somewhere nearby, heard the sound of a horrid footstep on a wooden floor. It's house! To scream from the annexed house. Instantly, Ginso was pulling on his shirt, gone over his pajamas. He checked his watch. 4:15 a.m. And that was when he heard the koto. Cling, cling, trum, ting. You know the sound you're hearing right now. The sound of all 13 screens of the intro being quickly plucked, followed right away by a loud thump, like folding screen folding over, and then dead silence. The merrymaking in the kitchen appeared to be over. Ginso slowly opened the shutter of his door. The snow had already stopped. A silver of moon glinted coldly in the night sky. The garden was caught in a thick, downy layer of snow. A figure appeared striding through the snow. Who's that? Ginso challenged the shadow. Ah, hello, did you hear that too? It was a male servant whom Ginso had never seen before. Yes, I heard it. What on earth was it? Wait a moment, I'll go with you. Throwing on his overcoat, Ginso stepped into the outdoor geta by the door and out into the snow. As he moved across the garden, there was a sound of Amado rain shutters being opened here and there. Itoko appeared at the door at the main entrance. That you there, Genshichi, I mean. What was that voice I just heard? Mama, I heard a koto. Suzuko's face appeared under her mother's lip. I don't know what it could have been, replied the servant, shivering. It sounded like somebody crying for help. Ginzo made a straight for the geta interfence. They divided the main house from the annex. At the moment, from the direction of the ranch family house, on the south far edge of the compound, Yosuke appeared calmly with his visage as he ran. Aunt Itoko, what was that noise? Oh, Ryo-chan, would you check the annex for me? Ginzo was pulling and rattling the tall garden gate. It seemed to be bolted on the opposite side, and he couldn't get it open. Yosuke threw himself shoulder first at the gate several times, but although it was made of branches and twig, it appeared to be frail and rickety. The gate proved unexpectedly sturdy. Genshiki, go fetch the axe. Yes, sir. Just as Genshiki turned to go, once more from the direction of the annex house came the sound of a koto. Like the sound of each koto string being played in turn, then a loud twang. Sing Sing vibrated through the air. It sounded as if a string had snapped. What was that? Said the servant, stopping in his track. The moonlight reflection of the snow revealed a whole collection of pale faces. Kenshiki, why are you wasting time? Barker Ryosuke, go and get the axe. By the time the servant returned with the axe, Itoko and Suzuko along with several maids and other male servants were gathering around the gate. Yosuke's wife, Akiko, arrived a little after. The others a little after there, but she had thought to bring a lantern. Genshiki swung the axe and after a few blows at the gate, it came off its hinges and fell inwards. Yosuke made to go first, but for some reason Ginzo grabbed him by the shoulder and pulled him back. Then he stood for a few moments in the garden gate, taking in the annex house and its surroundings. No footprints anywhere. Everyone, wait here, you two come with me. Ginzo indicated Ryosuke and the servant Genshiki. Take care. Make sure you don't pick up the snow too much. Akiko-san, would you mind lending me that lantern? Those are wrong and class means nothing in an emergency. Everyone present was overwhelmed by Ginzo's unexpected leadership skills, and not a single person protested. Only Ryosuke seemed to be having trouble concealing his annoyance at having to take orders from an upstart tenant farmer. He had only realized that this was a man who had succeeded in putting himself through college in America. He would surely have shown him some respect. As they passed through the garden gate, there was another low bamboo fence on the left side through the path at the front door of the building, but looking over it to the annex garden, they saw that the cottonwood snow was completely untouched. There seemed to be lights on the building. An electric glow spilled out of the decorative Ranma transoms at the top of the Amado rain shutters. The entrance to the annex house was at its... I think it's this... Here. Give me a second. Let's go with that one. Where was I? I forgot. Yeah, over here. Okay. The entrance to that was its electric glow. There we go. The entrance to the annex house was at its east end, and that was where, yeah. However, they found that the red ochre painted lattice door and the solid wooden door beyond there were locked. They could see a key in the inside lock of the lattice door. They pushed and pulled on this door, but it wouldn't budge. Ryosuke and Shiki banged as hard as they could on the slats, and called Genso's name on top of his tongue, but there was no reply. Ginso's expression hardened. He left the front entrance, stepped over the low fence, and walked around the south side of the building. The others two followed. The painted Amado were tightly closed on the side. Yosuke and Genshiki took it in turn to bang on the shutters and shout Genso's name, but still there was no response. The three men made their way further around the building. to the west side, continuing to bang on the shutters. Ryosuke suddenly stopped on his tracks and kind of strangled the noise came from deep in his throat. What's the matter? Ryosuke raised a finger and pointed. He was visibly friendly. That! Ginso and Genshiki followed his aid, but they saw made them gasp. About 6 feet away from the west end of the annex house stood a tall stone lantern. Near its base, stuck laid first into the snow, was a katana. Genshiki immediately was to run towards it, but once again Ginso cut the person to stop him. Don't touch it! Ginso raised the lantern and looked around in the dark sphere of bushes and that surrounded them, but nowhere could he see a single footprint. Meanwhile, Ryosuke went to investigate the range shutters, but they were all properly closed and locked. They didn't appear to be disturbed in any way. Third, have tried to look through the ranma over there? Genshiki instead indicated that the decorative panel above the west side shutters. Yes, give it a try. In the northwest corner, the lavatory area protruded from the rest of the building. In the bit of garden between the extension and the box that would have held horizontally sliding rain shutters when they were open, there was a decorated stone basin. Genshiki climbed onto the basin. Give me a second. What was Genshiki? Genshiki, here we go. Servant or farmer. Okay, fine. Man, this model character list thing actually helps a bit. Okay, now this percussion transom. What's a transom? Transom, a horizontal crossbar window over a door. Between a door and a window and a fan light above it. A transom is like a window that goes on top of a door. Okay. So I give a simple explanation right now. It's a traditional Japanese house. The ranma is a wooden panel with an open work parapet, included above the wooden sliding amado, or raised shutters, and the shoshi sliding paper doors. Its purpose is to let light and air into the room. When the rain shutters and the interior shoshi doors are closed, the one at the west end of the annex building was rather simple. A thick tree branch laid horizontally. It was uncarved and hadn't been sewn into a flat plant. It had been flawed in its natural form, with even the bark intact, the beauty in its natural curves. Here and there it had been planed away slightly so that it would rest against the door, lintel below, and the crossbeam above. But in other places, due to the natural curvature of the branch, there was quite a gap where light and air could enter. That said, none of the gaps were over 5 inches at most, definitely not enough space for a person to climb in or out. The lintel and the crossbeam and the shutters around it were all painted red ochre, as mentioned at the beginning of the story. Genshiki peered through this ranma. One of the joshi doors at the end of the room is open. Then the soshi by Tokonoma is slightly open too, and the view screen has fallen over this way, but I can't see anything beyond that. Nothing in the tatami part. The three men began again to call Kensu's and Katsuko's name, but still there was nothing. We'll have to break the shutters. The rain shutters were locked together, all the way around the house. There was no way to remove just one of them. Genshiki rushed to retrieve the axe he left at the garden gate. As Ryosuke and Ginso were waiting for him to return, they suddenly heard the sound of somebody up on the cliff behind them. They hurried to the corner of the lavatory extension. Who is it? Who's up there? Right in front of them there was a towering camphor tree that blocked their view, but then, from the bamboo thicket above the voice, "Is that the master of the branch family speaking? Oh, it's Shosan. What are you doing there? I heard a noise so I ran out to look, and then I heard your voice, sir." "Who's this Shosan?" asked Ginso. "What? Oh, this is the man in charge of the mill that polishes the rice. He comes to run the water wheel. If Shokichi, one of the servants, I believe at the opening of this book, I mentioned a broken down water wheel on the stream that ran along the west side of the Ichianaki property. Well, at the time of the story, the mill was still operating, and Shokichi would come early every morning to call up polish the rice. As you will discover later, this will prove crucial to the mystery. thank you for the note. Tokichi-san, you said you ran out of the mill at the moment you heard the voices, is that right? Asked Ginso. Did you by any chance happen to see any suspicious character? No, not a soul. I heard the voices come out of the mill and stopped for a bit there on the bridge. Then that's when I heard the koto the second time. That kind of ping-ping and the twanging sounds. I climbed up and ran along the edge of the cliff, but I didn't see a thing. There was when Genshiki returned with the axe. Ginso asked Shokichi to keep an eye open for anything out on towards, and went back to the west side of the house. At Ryosuke's order, Genshiki swung the axe at one of the ranged shutters. With the first blow, a crack hole appeared in the wood, large enough for Ryosuke to reach inside the slide of the wooden bolt that locked it shut. He slid the shutters to the side. The three men dashed through the open space, crossed the Engawa corridor running around the house, but they were brought to a halt by a sight that met them in the room beyond. It was a scene of carnage. Kenso and Katsuko lay slashed and soaked in blood. The futon with its decorated cover, freshly replaced tatami mat flooring, and even the gilded folding screen that had been knocked over were all bloody. What had happened to the heavenly dream that was supposed to be their wedding night? All that was left was a tableau from hell. Genshichi almost collapsed in shock, but Ginso caught him by the shoulders and steered him out of the room. Call a doctor and the police. Then make sure no one comes through that gate. After Genshichi ran off, Ginso stared for a while at the two bodies, a look of fear on his face. Then he began to look around the tatami floor. The first thing he noticed was the koto. The black koto that, with its gold lacquerous embellishments, was by Katsuko's side, as if someone with bloody finger had been playing the instrument. 12 of its string, right at the point where the music would plug them, were adorned with a streak of blood. The 13th string had been snapped right in the middle or on both ends, and curled up on themselves. The bridge that had supported the broken string was missing. The string had snapped, and the bridge was missing. Next, it occurred to Ginso to check the locks on all the doors and windows. All of the ranged shutters, included by the front entranceway, were undisturbed. One by one, opened the doors to the Oshire closet in the smaller tatami room mat, the lavatory area, the west side, the little storage closet, the opposite toilet, and checked inside each one. At the end of the bit of the corridor in front of the toilet was a small window, but there was no sign that anyone had opened it. He went to the main tatami room. He found Ryosuke, still standing there as if frozen. I don't understand it, Ginso told him. It's a mystery. There's nobody hiding there anywhere. There was nowhere anyone could get out. Maybe... Ryosuke caught Ginso's meaning right away and shook his head furiously. It's not possible. There's no way it could be suicide. Look at that screen. Ginso followed Ryosuke's gaze and saw the upturned side of the fallen Byobo screen. Byobo? Wow, you know, I just noticed something. A biobo in Spanish, it's called a biombo. So it comes from the Spanish version of this comes from Japanese, I guess. I didn't know. It sounds really similar, so it must be like from the same world. Anyways, the fallen biobo screen, a bloody cut print. The blood still wet. Strangely, there was only 3 fingerprints. The thumb, the index finger, and the middle finger. But there was something else that was pretty bizarre about this 3-finger handprint. And that's the end of the chapter. Okay, that's another. I guess that's a note. 3-finger bloody hand frame. And we already knew it was a locked murder, so that's it. Yeah, if you want to put some, if you notice something that I haven't put, you should tell me. Oh, by the way, the fucking dead. Kenzo is dead. Like there's nothing. Kenzo and Kyoko. I will put it over here. Wait, her name was Kyoko, right? I think I completely fucked up the name. The name was Katsuko. The name was Katsuko. Fuck. Katsuko. And I was wrong. It was 4 AM. So I will just delete this. Yeah. There we go. Let's go. Chapter 5. A new use of the Kotopi. Oh, I guess I should like give you this this thing. Give me a second. Oof. I think I will have to delete that part, but don't worry. Hey Brian, how are you doing? I don't know where to put it. I will put it here, and let's see what's afterwards. But it's how the place looks. Like 16 is the gate. This is how they entered the house. This is 6 and 7 is where they found the dead people. And they already found a lot of things. But let's I will put it like over here for when I have to tell what's going on. Actually, here and put it invisible. Okay, let's continue reading. The father of F, the man who provided me with the background and information for my story, used to be a village doctor. Now sadly departed, but the morning after the murder was Dr. F, who was the first to arrive on the scene. The doctor appeared to have been fascinated by the Honjin murder case and made detailed notes, which I am still able to consult today. Much of this case has been recreated from the content of these notes. Among them was a sketch of the house. When writing a book of this kind, such materials are extremely helpful for keeping up of what's current, so I'm going to include a manuscript sketch. It was about 6 o'clock and the sun was starting to come up by the time Dr. F and the local police constable arrived. As soon as the constable saw the scene of the crime, he called the main police station in S-Town to report the major incident. The S-Town police station in turn called the prefectural police headquarters, so police investigators kept turning up because each more senior than the last, the location was so remote that it was reportedly already known by the time everyone was assembled. Holy shit. The investigator must be conducted a crime scene investigation and interviewed everyone connected to the victims. but it surely isn't necessary to cover all that in detail here. I really don't want to bore my readers, so I will just summarize for you the finding of the chief investigator, Detective Inspector Isokawa. Okay? Now I will show the map, and just follow what I say, right? What you see in one, is the rain shutter broken by Ryosuke, Genkichi, and Ginso, the one that they used to get inside. Number 2 is a storage closet where the killer hid. The killer hid there. What? 3 is the box of Koto Picks in Tokunawa alcove. 4 is Shoshi's screen, slightly open. 5 is Shoshi's screen, fully open. 6 is Gyobyo folding screen, fallen. 7 is the Koto. 8 marks left where the killer apparently slid down the cliffside. 9 are footprints. 10 is a stone lantern. 11 is a katana stuck in the snow. 12 is a pile of fallen leaves. 13 is a camphor tree. 14 is a stone basin. 15 is a lavatory area. 16 is the garden gate. I will now hide the map. First, there was a problem with the problem of the footprint. Inspector Isokawa arrived around 11 that morning, but by the 10, the snow had already begun to melt. There was no reason to doubt Ginso's, Ryosuke, and the servants' Genkichi's testimony that there hadn't been a single footprint in the snow. This information caused the inspector great anxiety, but in fact, it wasn't quite true. There were no footprints whatsoever. Fuck off. I invited you to take another look at the sketch. The next house. There were a steep hillside or kind of cliff edge to the north of the building. Between this cliff and the annex, there was a strip of empty land about 6 feet wide. The cliff top is thick with bamboo trees and hung out over the edge, with the result that the snow didn't pile up directly below the cliff at night. It was in this empty area close to the end of the annex that there were some visibly muddy footprints. And not only footprints, according to the police, there was also signs that somebody had slid down the high side of the cliffside into the ground. As you can see on the sketch, the footprints head towards the east entrance of the building, but once they get close they disappear, presumably because they were covered in a layer of snow. But then, on the earthen floor on the Genkan entranceway, there were shoes removed before stepping into the house. There were 2 more muddy footprints that appeared to be identical to the others. In summary, whoever had slid down the cliffside had then walked to the east and entered the annex house by the front door. Those footprints were strangely misshapen. There was an extremely deep impression at the toe, and much lighter and twisted at the heel. It was clear that anyone that had been made by a pair of old worn shoes. There was nobody in the Ichinagi household who owned a pair of shoes like that, thus it was unreasonable to assume that this footprint belonged to a murderer. In other words, the murderer had come sliding down the cliff behind the annex house and had crept through the main entrance, but what then could this have happened? Well, the snow was very useful to work this out. The snow had started falling around 9 o'clock. The previous evening had stopped at around 3 in the morning. This meant that the murderer had snuck into the house before 9, or at least before it began to snow heavily around 2 a.m. However, the footprint inside the Genkan didn't seem to have been made by shoes had thrown in the snow, so the conclusion was that they had been made before 9 p.m. Additionally, according to Akiko, who had walked around the Engawa at 7 p.m. to close all the rain shutters, there hadn't been any footprint inside the Genkan at the time. It was said that the killer must have crept between 7 and 9 p.m. almost while the wedding ceremony was underway in the main house. So far, it was all seeming to make sense. But what did the murderer do after sneaking into the house? Again, please take a look at the sketch. There was a little storage closet opposite to the toilet. It is believed that the murderer hid in there. This peculiar closet was filled with discarded bedding and some cotton peelings that had been removed from old futons. There were clear imprints left in the cotton, waiting that indicated somebody had been lying there. Not only that, but the scabbard of the katana, presumably the one that had been used as the murder weapon, was laying in the closet floor. The sword belonged to the Ichiyanagi family and had been displayed on the shelf in the Tokonoma at the large room earlier that day. The killer must have taken it into the closet with him. That means that during the sacred ceremony the katana was already missing, but nobody noticed, probably because the folding screen has been placed in front of the altar. It seems strange to thought that the killer waited until 4 AM to commit the murder. After all, the bride and groom have gone to bed around 2 AM. There were many theories about this, but the most persuasive argument argued that since it was the wedding night, Kenzo and Katsuko were probably not in a hurry to go to sleep. The killer wanted to wait for them to drop off before attacking. Well, it was the most accepted theory, but I'd like you to come to one more look at the location of that closet. Let's look at the closet once more, as they are saying. The closet is 2. The closet is 2. What's in 3? Yeah, the closet is kind of far away. I don't know. You will know if someone went to sleep, or I guess you will wait until they shut up. Between the closet and the large tatami room, there was where the newlyweds were living. There's only one single worm. The man must have been able to hear everything, feel everything that passed through between them, every single whisper, every breath, every sigh. It was the most nauseating aspect of his case. When this occurred it from the police detective, his face turned dark, with anger and disgust. Having waited until the couple fell asleep, the killer ventured out of the closet. Later on, he would have opened the Joshi sliding doors that separated the west side corridor from the tatami rooms and entered the bedroom area. But before that, he did something a little strange, or so it seems. The Joshi door closer to the Tacoma alcove had been left open just a crank. After Katsuko finishing her koto performance, Akiko of the Brand family reported having placed the box containing the koto pigs in the back right-hand corner of the Tokonoma. But when the crime scene was discovered, the box of pigs was found in the front left corner, right by the small opening in the Joshi. The killer had evidently slid the door open a little, reached through the opening, picked up the box, then he had removed 3 koto pigs from it, slipped them onto his fingers, and put the box back into a different location. What the fuck? The police came to this conclusion after examining the 3 blended fingerprints on the gold leaf Yobo screen. I mentioned at the end of the previous chapter that there was something bizarre about the handprint. Now I revealed that there was no print at all left by the fingers. That's scratch marks left by the koto pigs. I thought this would be the right moment to remind you that the nature of the koto pigs. Unlike other kind of musical pigs or plectrums, the koto pigs resemble a false fingernails attached to a ring. Oh, I've seen the koto pigs. Yes, the koto pigs look like I was thinking the whole time when they were saying koto pigs, I thought that he was talking about like guitar pigs. The koto pigs look like they're like rings that look like nails, like fake nails, basically. The ring slipped into the finger with the nails part covered the pad of the finger. In other words, it was like wearing, if you were a koto pigs, your fingerprints would be obscured. Knowing this, the killer had slid koto pigs into his fingers before committing the murders, or so the police believed, as the 3 missing koto pigs were found covered in blood on the shelf above the hands basin in the lavatory area. It seemed to have been a reasonable conclusion. The killer, with the 3 koto pigs on his hand and brandishing a katana, crept into a room where the newlyweds were sleeping. First attacked Katsuko, who was sleeping on the side of the near entrance, slashing her several times. There was evidence that Katsuko had struck him briefly, but with no force. It seemed that the blade of the sword had killed her almost immediately. No doubt, woken by the note, Kenzo had sat up only to be cut down by the killer with a blow that slipped over his arm. Undoubted, he had then thrown himself on top of Katsuko's body to protect her, at which the killer ran through him with the katana, leaving the bridegroom body pierced through the heart, lying lifelessly on top of his bride. It was the scenario that Inspector Isokawa constructed in his mind, but there was a lot more that he didn't understand. already mentioned that the Koto had been brought to the beside a pure capital display with a bloody fingerprint. But why on earth had the man paused his attack to play a musical instrument? And then there was the bridge from under the broken string. Why was it missing? Where had it gone? The investigator had searched the whole annex building, but it was nowhere to be found. However, even more mysterious was the disappearance of the killer himself. How had he escaped? Every single door or window of the building had been sternly locked from the inside. There was no single opening through which anyone, man or woman, could have squeezed in. And yet someone had killed Genson Katsuko. After playing the Koto, had apparently gone out through the shoshi doors on the west side and onto the Engamo. He left the 3 bloody Koto bricks above the Hans basin, and just inside the Amado rain shutters that Ryosuke and Genshi had broken with the axe, he dropped a small hand towel, cramped into a bloody smeared ball. But that wasn't all. On the inside of the smashed rain shutter itself was a bloody handprint with only 3 fingers, but this time the fingers were not covered by the Koto bricks. The prints were faint but visible. This piece of evidence suggested that the killer had made his escape through the rain shutters, or at the very least, had tried to open them. The question was, had the shutter really been bolted shut before Genkichi had broken the axe? Ryosuke, who was the one who had reached inside and unlocked it, and he didn't take too kindly to the threat that he might have been mistaken. The rain shutters were definitely bolted shut. Kenshichi smashed a hole in it with his axe. It was big enough for me to put the hand inside, reach in and slide the bolt. It's absurd to suggest that the murderer could have escaped that way, and even if he did, how come there were no footprints out of the window snow? Kenshichi and I are absolutely sure of that. Ginso-san will be back as up too. Ginso nodded in agreement, but at the same time, he puts Ryosuke faced with eyes that held more than a hint of suspicion. But let's back up for a moment. Before dawn had broken that morning, Ginso had standing with Ryosuke, staring in horror at the bodies of her niece and her husband. When the police began to arrive, Ginso was finally able to clear himself away. It was around 7 AM and the weather had cleared up. The snow piled up high on the roof of the main building. It was dazzling in the morning sun. The dripping of melted water was eaves of the house. Let me read that again. The snow piled high on the roof of the main building was dazzling in the morning sun. The dripping of the melted water from the eaves of the house was coming faster and faster. But Ginso was blind to the sight and deaf to the sound. His face was twisted in sorrow, and concealed deep beneath the sorrow was a deep sense of regret and anger. Wordlessly, he turned his back towards the main house. It was interrupted by the arrival of Saburo. He stayed the night at the great uncle's Hei's house in Kei, but now, having got a word of a servant about what had happened, he hurried home. He looked pale, but it was his companion who caught Ginso's attention. An elegant mustached gentleman in his mid-30s. When the mistress of the house caught sight of him, he looked astonished. "Oh, Ryoji, what are you doing here?" "Mother, Genshiki just told me a dreadful news." Of course, he seemed upset, but at the same time calmer than expected under these circumstances. "It's horrible, dreadful. I don't know what to do. But Ryoji, what are you doing here so quickly? When did you get back?" "I just arrived from Fukuoka. The conference I was attending finished earlier than I expected. I thought I would come to offer Kenzo my congratulations. I got off at N station and had just stopped by great uncle CK's house in Kei. That's how the wedding had gone when Kenshichi arrived." Kenzo had waiting the young man with great distrust, but as he heard the words, his eyes grew wider until his gaze was practically burning a hole in the side of Ryuji's face. His stares was so intense that Ryuji himself could hardly fail to notice. He began to look uncomfortable. "Mother, this man, this is Katsuko's uncle, Ginso-san. This is my second son, Ryuji." Ginso inclined his head and, without uttering a word, returned to his room in the main house. For a while he just stood there thinking, but eventually he heard a single word. "That man's lying." With that, he opened his suitcase and took a blank telegram. After a few moments, he began to write a letter. Yeah, there's a lie there. I think the lie is that he stopped by the great uncle's EK's house because EK isn't at that house. He never went. I think last night. That's a clue that I didn't put because I didn't thought it was important. So for some reason, the Yuji is a suspect, a very big suspect, and just because he said that, I noticed the lie. If he wouldn't have mentioned it, I wouldn't have noticed. He began to run. Katsuko dead. Sent Kinda Eichi. He arrested to his own wife, then set out for the K-Town post office, and that's how Kinda Eichi was involved in the case. A sickle and a Koto bridge. This is hell of a case, downright creepy, if you ask me. I've been doing this job a long time, and no matter how grisly or bloody splatter, there's not much that can surprise me anymore. But the more I think about this one, the more unsettled I feel. Hey Kimura, what do you make of the killer leaving footprints on the way in, but not on the way out? Detective Isokawa had pulled a desk out of the Engawa of the annex house, was mistakenly trying to piece together some torn up scraps of writing paper. His Detective Sergeant Kimura was assisting. Inspector, how else we look at this whole case more simply? What do you mean simply? What if Ryosuke's character is lying? If we decide that then there's nothing mysterious about it all, whether the screen was bolted or shut or not, he's the only one who knows the truth. He's free to lie about it as much as he likes. Ryosuke? Okay. Well, I suppose you got a point, but then we got the footprint problem. Inspector, shouldn't we concentrate on the thing at a time? We can check the garden again later for footprints, but let's focus on this for now. If Ryosuke's lying, then the question is, why? Do you have any thoughts on the matter? I think that he knows more than he's saying. I suppose he knows who the killer is. Still, whether he knows who the killer is and whether the shutters were locked or not are two separate questions. I don't think so. Or that's marking it's too complicated, you know? I just don't like that man. There's something sneaky about him. You can't go around judging people on the first impressions. That's how mistakes get made. Let's say Inspector Isokawa's only impression of Ryosuke was far from positive. All of the siblings from the Kadichi Yanagi family had the appropriate appearance and being to be called a descendant of the Honjin. Even the good-for-nothing Saburo with his indifferent attitude was in his own, a bit lazy way, clearly the son of a well-to-do family. Ryosuke did not compare favorably at all. He was short and skinny, and looked older than his years. He had a fussy, finicky manner. There was something a little coarse about him. You could see all this if you looked at his eyes. His eyes that were constantly moving, forever checking out the people's expression. At first glance you'd take him for timid, but in fact, he was cunning. Someone who has never seemed to let down his guard. He's the head of the family branch, right? Right, he will never inherit anything. The one who was murdered, Kenzo, was scholarly type. He didn't really bother himself with the family business. This Ryosuke got quite a reputation for managing the business and profiting from it. What about Ryuji? It seems very fishy that he just happened to arrive home this morning. Yes, that one. Rumor has it that this is quite a good type. The folk in the village reckon he's easy to get along with. It seems he's employed by an Osaka hospital. He just had entered from a conference in Kyushu University. It would be a very simple thing to check on, so I doubt very much he's lying. But by the way, what did you just say just now? You think that Ryosuke might be protecting the killer, you mean? You mean that Ryosuke knows this three-fingered man? According to the Okami-sen at Kawada's, he was nothing but a crumb, a silly-looking guy. Kawa was the name of the cheap tavern that was mentioned in the opening of the story. The place where the three-fingered man had first been seen. At this point, Inspector Isokawa had just finished his initial reasoning of the Ichiyanage family member, and so it followed that he had already heard all the mysterious three-fingered man. It was Saburo who told him, as soon as he heard that a three-fingered man had been left in the annex house, he couldn't wait to tell his brother that he had heard at the barber shop. For Isokawa's part, as soon as he heard Saburo's story, he dispatched the police to Kawada's office The officer returned with a full description of the man and the glass that he had drunk from the Okami-sen. Repulsed by the man appearing, he had used the glass since then. Thanks to this action, the three-finger mark was strictly visible on the surface of the glass. The spirit Izukawa sent it straight off to be analyzed. When Saburo's story was repeated to Ryosuke's wife Akito, she recalled the strange man who had turned up at the kitchen shortly before the wedding. The police questioned Old Now, the servant, and all that had been in the kitchen at the time. He determined that he was the same man. He also heard that Akiko called the message man delivered something torn up and described it in the sleeve of Kensu's kimono. The detective had obtained the kimono that Kensu had been wearing at the time of his death, so immediately discovered shredded notes. And that's what the Inspector Izukawa certain people were now busily trying to reassemble. Kimura, we're almost there. Have you got the pieces that goes here? No, that's not it. This one looks right. No, just that more. There. That's it. Fortunately, not a single scrap of the shattered notepaper had gone missing, and the detective had successfully pieced together the whole thing. However, the paper turned out to be covered in pencil scribbles, which seemed to scream before their eyes. Excellent. What kind of weird handwriting? Humorous. First word, what do you think it is? I think it's the card for Island. Island? Yes, I know what you said. It does look like island. The Island Pact of Agreement, isn't it? Island Agreement. What is the next word? I think it says short. Will shortly, maybe? Yes. Will shortly be... Is that executed? Now I can't read the words either. The handwriting was so poor to start with, and which the paper had torn into so many pieces, that it took skill to read anything at all. However, the two men worked patiently together and eventually came out with a message. The Island Agreement will shortly be executed. We're agreed to it. Be it under cover of the night, or suppress attack by whatever means, an agreement was made. From one you call your mortal enemy. The two detectives were speaking for a few moments. Sir, this is a warning. It's a bad notice of a murder. It was that way, it's clear a threat, and several hours after taking a delivery of this letter, he was murdered. Damn it, the case has turned even nastier. Inspector Izukawa stood up, holding the glued together message. Let's go and make some inquiries at the main house, this island agreement. We better find out. If Kenzo ever spent on time on the island, an island somewhere. As the inspector was sliding to fit in a pair of Geta sandals, someone called his name. It was the junior detective tasked with going over the outside of the west end of the building with a fine-toothed comb. Inspector Izukawa, have you please come and have a look at this? I found something odd. What, more discoveries? The young detective directed him to a spot just under the eave of the lavatory in the north corner of the building. If you wouldn't mind referring once more to the sketch, blah blah blah. Someone had swept up some fallen leaves into a pile on the ground. The police officer pushed some of the leaves aside and the end of the stick. Take a look at this. And the inspector's eye widened. Isn't that from the right? The missing cotton bridge. Someone dropped it out here. It looks like the clear passed this way while making his escape. I thought at first that he might have thrown it from one of the lavatory windows, but as far as I can see, they all have a fine wire mesh over them. The holes in the mesh are too small to fit. The control bridge through the tree trunk ran above the mother rain shutter. Also impossible. You could throw the cotton bridge through the gap, but the angle's wrong. The lavatory wall would have blocked its trajectory through the leaf pile. But there was one stroke of luck, because it fell in the pile of leaves and got buried. It hardly got wet at all. There's bloody fingerprints still visible. Inspector Izukawa looked at the lavatory window and then at the ramp over the shutters. The young detective was right. Right, take care of the get it off for analysis. Have you found anything else? Yes, one more thing, over here. The sheriff detective directed the Q Champort 3. There's that too, he said, pointing up the branches. See around the head of the third branch from the bottom? There's a sickle stuck up there. I tried to climb up to get it, but it's really stuck flat in the trunk. I wasn't strong enough to pull it out. Examined the handle and there was a name of a garden company brand on it. The gardener must have forgotten it. It does look as if the ground had been recently turned too, but up in the tree like that? I understand if they left some shears or something, but a sickle is weird. I see what you mean. Not supposed to think. Leave the sequel up there for now, and what else was it? Ah yes, don't forget to get the Koto bridge back to the station, and just in case, search really carefully around here one more time. Inspector Isukawa made his way over to the main house where he found the whole Ichiranagi family assembled in the sitting room. Ginzo was there in the corner, smoking a pipe. He'd been camping in the position ever since, returning from the post office that morning. Hardly exchanging words with anybody, he sat there suddenly puffing on his pipe and listening to the whispered conversation of the others. Forgetting any sense of restraint or decorum, he was openly scrutinizing the family expressions and behaviors. For the family part, the presence of Ginzo there in the sitting room was as oppressive as an overcast sky in a rainy season. Ryosuke and Saburo seemed particularly on edge. Whenever they happened to glance in the direction, they hurriedly averted their gaze. Only Suzuko had been seen that there was something gentle and kind about the old man. Underneath his angry exterior, she was behaving affectionately towards him, and right now was laying on the floor with her head in the lap. Hey, Uncle Ginzo! Hey, Uncle Ginzo, he asked, pulling on his finger. I got something worth to tell you. Ginzo glanced at Suzuko, his face a little confused. Yesterday, in the middle of the night, I heard a pot of flame. First of all, it sounded like clink, clunk, thump, thump. Someone had a pot of pigs on the fingers and was really pulling like crazy on all the strings. Then the second time, I heard it was ping ping, like someone was plucking on at one string. Uncle Ginzo, do you remember? Yes, I remember. Well, the day before yesterday, David, I heard the same sounds. Ginzo looked at Suzuko in surprise. Are you telling the truth? Oh, of course I am. And the sound was coming from the annex. So the sound you heard 2 nights ago was the same drumming, like someone pulling the crazy on the string? No, not like that. Well, they might have made the sound first, but I must have been sound asleep then. That night I only heard the ping ping sound. Do you know what the time you heard it? I don't know what time it was. I was so scared I hid under the bed cover, because that night there wasn't anybody in the annex. The Koto was still over there. Uncle Ginzo, is it true that when a cat dies it turns into a ghost? That was how all conversation with Suzuka ended up. But when she was seeming to be making sense, she suddenly slipped into the realm of fantasy. And yet, it really seemed that 2 nights ago, she had heard the Koto sounds. Okay, that seems like a clue. 2 days ago, Koto sounds. Okay, I have something that he was about to ask to tell him more about when Inspector Isukawa came in, and that was the end of the conversation. I have something I'd like to ask all of you, Inspector said. Did Kenzo-san ever spend any time on an island somewhere? The Ichiranagi looked at each other. Ryo-san, what do you think? Said Ryuji. Kenzo hadn't really been out anywhere at all recently, had he? It doesn't have to be recently. This person said hastily. It have been a long time ago. Did he visit an island? Did he stay on one for a while? In that case, he probably did. When he was young, my brother used to travel. He used to go on walking trips all over the place. But what does it have to do with this death? Ryuji looked puzzled. While we believe that the island connection is important to solving the murder, it would be helpful if we knew the name of a particular island, the one mentioned here. Inspector Isukawa produced the reconstructed note. There was a very mysterious message written in the paper. I will read it out. Please tell me if it means anything to you. The inspector proceeded to read the message aloud. When it came to the final phrase, from the one you called your mortal enemy, there was a faint cry. It was Saburo. Under the detective inspector peers and the questioning looks from the rest of the family, the color drained from his face, and he looked as shitty as a criminal caught red-handed. Okay, I will write that down. And I think it's a good moment to, stop, because I've been reading non-stop for 6 chapters. Well, I stopped in the middle of it, but I think 6 chapters is good. 6 chapters, 6 chapters, 6 chapters. So I think I will be ending it, I will be doing this 2 more times, and that will be the end of the book. Anyways, shut up. I hope you guys enjoyed like the reading of the first 6 chapters of the book. Let me write this down, I guess. Da, 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 da. Saburo knows or is the mortal enemy. And that's I guess I will just save this and have it. I have the word for later. Tonight I think I'm going to be playing a game. I think I will be playing Stanley Parable because I want something more meta, you know. But yes, this was a nice breaking point. If you liked it, well, come again. If you don't like it, well, I don't know why you're still here because we have been doing this for hours now. But I hope to see you again, and I will, well, be posting it again. See you later. How do I? Yeah. Anyway.